Минулого місяця в українській громаді Альберти відбулася велика подія – відкриття в Едмонтоні нової галерії Альбертської ради українського мистецтва, на яке прибула творча еліта Едмонтону.
Наступний сюжет спонсорований готелем «Шато Луї» в Едмонтоні. Альбертська рада українського мистецтва в Едмонтоні недавно відсвяткувала 30-ліття свого існування. З приводу цієї річниці в Едмонтоні урочисто відкрили приміщення, в якому буде знаходитися художня галерея ради, де митці зможуть виставляти свої роботи, де буде культурний центр для громадських зустрічей, як і також комісійний магазин художніх виробів. Відкриття проводила президент Альбертської ради українського мистецтва Дебі Стасюк, яка розповіла про нову галерею.
With our 30th anniversary, we decided we wanted to do something for the community. We are lacking a community center, a community hub in a city that has such a large population of Ukrainians. And we are so rich and so blessed with our Ukrainian artists that we have here, our Ukrainian musicians, our Ukrainian language programs, and all that we offer. It's huge. What we offer in Alberta is truly quite amazing. It's truly outstanding. So what we did is we were able to, through a wonderful series of events that just happened and it snowballed, we were able to find this space, and with just wonderful volunteers and a lot of community support and people putting in countless hours. Painted, laid flooring, got it all ready and started to promote it. And we've been in this new location for 2 months. It's our community space and it's our contribution to our Ukrainian community, so we're pretty proud of it.
На урочистому відкритті представник місцевого уряду Марлен Шмидт привітав присутніх від імені міністра культури Альберти Дейвід Еган.
Canada has become a very vibrant multicultural country that welcomes people from all over the world and lets them participate fully in life here in Canada. And I think the Ukrainian-Canadian community has really been the model for the execution of a successful version of multiculturalism here in our country. The Ukrainian Canadians were really at the forefront of modeling multiculturalism, accepting people who are outside of that English-French dichotomy that we used to think of here in Canada. And so, the fact that we have a welcoming, dynamic, diverse country with people from 114 different countries in our province, we owe a lot to Ukrainian Canadians and the cultural and arts organizations that you founded. So thank you very much for making Canada a wonderful, dynamic and diverse place to live. And it's a tremendous privilege for me to be here because I think if I hadn't been the MLA, I wouldn't be here because I'm one of the few Albertans who has no connection to Ukrainian heritage at all. So although I have been called a banyak sometimes, I assume that that's a good thing.
Голова Конгресу українців Канади в Альберті Олеся Луців-Андрійович звернулася до присутніх зі словами вітання.
Від імені Конгресу українців Канади, Провінційної ради Альберти, його місцеві відділі та організації членів маю честь привітати Альбертійську раду українського мистецтва відкриття галереї і бутік. Aqua is a very active member of UCC-APC, so we are thrilled to see this opening today. I would also like to take the opportunity to acknowledge the work that Aqua has had in the last year and a half in the humanitarian efforts for Ukraine, our ancestral home, which has been put into a crisis situation. Many of the artists you see on the walls today participated in Art for Aid, and with their help, we have sent over more than $35,000 to Ukraine to help.
Почесним гостем на відкритті була відома українська художниця Лариса Сембалюк-Челадин, яка розповіла про роль Ради митців у її зростанні як художниці.
They have made a significant contribution to arts, not only in Alberta, But when you travel across Canada to all the many festivals that I've been at, Aqua has had a presence all the way across from coast to coast. By supporting and advocating for artists and the various art forms in which we express ourselves, Aqua has played a leadership role in bridging the gap between Ukrainian culture and the broader arts community. Through the sponsorship of artisan workshops, conferences, seminars, and scholarships that many of you all know about already, Aqua has enabled the introduction of various Ukrainian folk art forms, the techniques, and the themes. You've introduced them to the general public. Aqua has also assisted individual artists and groups by increasing their exposure via specific events and the inclusion in the awesome publication Aqua Vitae. There is no doubt that I personally have benefited from Aqua's support. Aqua has exhibited my work and represented me at various festivals and exhibitions. My work has been featured several times in Aqua Vitae. Aqua has provided me the opportunity, and myself and other artists, with an opportunity to hone our teaching skills. Many of us are artists in our studios, but to get out there and teach is a little bit tough. And so to be invited to do a workshop has been a great opportunity to test it out and before going out into the general public. And I have also been invited to play a mentorship role, sharing my experiences and expertise as a professional artist with up-and-coming new aspiring artists in the community. I have seen firsthand, through their leadership and support, how Aqua, its board of directors, and the many volunteers have successfully become the nucleus of a strong, vibrant cohort of creative characters like myself. Tonight's opening of this new gallery and boutique is the next step in a community collaboration. I can see it growing. It's nice. It feels right. This space is going to offer an upbeat location with even more room to host workshops and exhibits. It will be a great space from which to continue inspiring creative growth.
Лариса розповіла присутнім про її вивчення теми української вишивки в прикладному побутовому мистецтві.
This summer, as part of my research, I traveled across Canada, as Debbie referred to, and I actually posted on Facebook daily posts, as I visited most of the major cities between Sydney, BC, and Sydney, Nova Scotia. I interviewed 40 people who had embroidered pillows that were created in Canada that were inspired by traditional Ukrainian patterns. The pillows were created by either the interviewee, or the person I interviewed, but more often it was created by their mother, grandmother, or some other close friend or relative, and there were actually a couple of men that I met that embroidered pillows. I photographed 475 different pillows that were owned by those 40 people. No two are the same, except for two in Saskatoon, Stomachkale. They were embroidered to match on either side of the couch. The match cute. During my 5-week journey, there were many aha moments that put the information I was gathering into perspective. The first insight that related specifically to my personal artistic background was I found that many of the creators, the people who embroidered the pillows, were actually artists themselves. They were inspired by their cultural roots and needed a creative outlet to express themselves. The pillows were images and narratives that were recorded on whatever materials they had at hand. This was particularly evident when some of the pillows that I saw that were made in the 1920s, 30s, that were on sugar sacks and were embroidered with just borrowed thread from wherever. Pillows that I saw from the 1940s through the 1960s were, many of them inspired by patterns, but modified to accommodate the size of the cloth or the available colored threads. I came across many who would tell me their mother couldn't afford to buy the threads that were mentioned in the pattern in Promin or Holos or Ginoche Suite. They just took whatever they had from before and adapted those colors to the new pattern. And the patterns were often modified and changed because I would have to say the biggest source of those patterns came from the neighbor or the sister's blouse or the aunt's pillow down the block. And they copied that but changed it a little bit so they wouldn't be exactly the same. So I could see in those 475 pillows some threads of similarity, but everyone had its own artistic mark. Each one was different. The second insight was the revelation of how prolific the art form was and how many pillows have been kept and cherished, tucked away. There aren't as many out on display on the couch, but very few have been thrown out. I only visited a very tiny slice of the community. As I traveled, I averaged 3 interviews, maybe 4 per little area. But from what I saw, I project there are literally thousands of embroidered pillows tucked away in drawers and trunks across Canada. And the third insight or food for thought was the nagging question that I was asked along the way. What are we going to do with all these embroidered textiles? Because not only did people bring out pillows for me to look at, they said, oh, you don't really want to see this. You want to see my Baba's tablecloth and her pile of seravatki and my daughter's Ukrainian dance costume. And like it was just piling up. I was overwhelmed when I got back. And it's a question, what are we going to do with them all? It's a valid question and has to be brought to the table and discussed sometime very soon before it all ends up at Value Village and then in the dumpster. I'm serious about that. The major component of my thesis is a written document in which I'll analyze all the information I collected. However, as many of you know, it's not in my genes to create and hide my work. My basic creative approach is to research, create, and then share it with the world.
Від імені Шевченківської фундації присутніх привітав її президент Андрій Гладишевський і також допоміг провести аукціон продажі мистецьких сувенірів.
Від імені Ради директорів, congratulations to Aqua coming here. Shevchenko Foundation and Aqua have worked for well over almost a generation. The foundation's been around for 50 years. Najad, by the way, a lot of you people in the room have never donated to the Shevchenko Foundation. In fact, I probably would say less than 10% of you have ever donated. But the Shevchenko Foundation supports the arts. The arts in Canada are Ukrainian Canadian arts in Canada are not active. They're not active. That's a very understated word. The arts, Ukrainian arts in Canada, horech. It burns. It burns with creativity. We other Canadians marvel at what our artists produced, and you had Larissa Symbiuc-Chaladin, who's helped the Shevchenko Foundation in the past by donating her art to allow that work to be supported by the foundation. I see Irina Karpenko here, whose works have gone into the Shevchenko Foundation posters and Christmas cards. So there are a lot of visual artists who've received money from the Shevchenko Foundation and who need your support.
Президент Альбертської ради українського мистецтва Дебі Стасюк успішно керує цією організацією.
The job of Aqua is so important. Like our organization is so important. Like our burden, I don't want to say it's heavy, but our responsibility is immense because this organization is being trusted to keep that alive. And our artists need to be recognized and people need to understand how important that is. And they do, but we don't always know how to touch it. So to go back to your original question, so we have those core groups and you're going to meet some of our folk artists today. And we welcome our contemporary artists. And you know, even with our contemporary artists, like you can see the Ukrainian in their art, right? Everything's got there's something in there, you can feel it, right? And so we have that group, and by opening this facility and launching this and the publicity that we're getting and the promotion and our local media has been so supportive in our community, we have a whole bunch of new artists. And we have a whole bunch of new people that walked through the door last night and said, we'd like to teach classes and we can do this and we want to be a part of Aqua, and we, sold more memberships, and we welcomed a whole bunch of new members last night. And, this gallery is full of artists like Terry Pitts, who's never exhibited in Edmonton before. From Edmonton, her family came from a Ukrainian settlement called Wa, which is very close to where I came from in Hallich. And you know what? She's, multi-generational, and she's brought her stuff. She lives in BC, and she brought her stuff here because she wants to be a part of this. Like, our artists want to be a part of it, and our community wants to be a part of it, and I don't know, I don't think it can get any better than that.
Альбертська рада українського мистецтва була заснована одночасно із Асоціацією українського танцю, в роботі якої протягом багатьох років важливу роль відігравав композитор та художній керівник танцювального ансамблю «Шумка» Євген Звоздецький, колишній спікер парламенту та міністр уряду Альберти.
В тих часах, 30-40 років тому, дуже мало було до вибору, не тільки в музиці, але також до хореографії і так далі. Отже, щоб злучити то, ми мусили дуже сильно, твердо, глибоко думати, як ми маємо зберегти українську спадщину через музику і через танки, щоб вона зрослася і ще до того трималася якнайближче до свого коріння, розумієш? Отже, ми мали групу, очевидно, «Шумка», яка почалася в 59-му році, здається, і я там причинився десь так в 63-му році, щось таке, а тоді я перебрав всю музику після того, що я танцював 69-го, 68-го року, десь так. І я там слідкував і був з ними десь так 25 років, як музичний диригент, композитор, обробки виробляв і так далі. Ну, і я диригував, звичайно. Але то були інакші часи, правда, бо то було трудно тоді знайти ті мелодії і так далі. Я дуже вдячний нашим відданим артистам з тих часах. Знаєте, то дуже багато їх було, отже, я не буду їх назвати зараз. Але я знаю, що українська душа зросла через такі групи. Очевидно, вони ще виростаються дуже добре, бо в Альберті ми маємо десь так приблизно 10 тисяч тих танцюристів, що слідкують українські танки. Ну, і їм завжди буде треба музики, правда? Але, слава Богу, ми маємо вже тепер багато більше композиторів. Але в тих часах я одинокий був.
Директор Альбертської ради українського мистецтва та мовний редактор телепрограми «Контакт» доктор Андрій Горняткевич розповідає про ще одну велику заслугу «Аква» – видання довідника художників та митців.
Кількадесят років тому видали довідник українських митців. Отже, розуміється, всяких митців, чи то музики, чи танців, чи що там. Якщо ви займалися мистецтвом, появилася книжка. Але, як самі знаємо, що раз появиться книжка, вона вже є того дня застарілою. Бо завжди хтось новий приходить, на жаль, часом люди відходять. І тому тепер це зроблено в електронному форматі. Отже, воно куди доступніше, бо, скажімо, книжку хто дістане її, хто її не має. А до бази даних має практично кожен. Бо все ж таки, навіть якщо немає власного комп'ютера, може піти до публічної бібліотеки і там подивитися. І це колосальна робота, заслуга, власне, Альбертської ради українського мистецтва, що вони зібрали всіх таких митців в найширшому розумінні того слова.